Can you hear me?
There's me.
Hi, Meg. I don't think we can hear you. You might be muted.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you now loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Is that okay, that one?
Okay, it's 1 o'clock.
Can everyone please turn on their mic?
Microphone's on. It's 1 o'clock. All race cars are at the starting gate, so we'll go ahead and get going here. We'll call the meeting to order, and we will start as always with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God, indivisible,
created.
liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Okay. Roll call. Flint Nelson, Chair, present. Steve McKesson, Vice Chair.
Present.
Bob Barnett,
Present.
Greg Irvine,
Here.
Julie Johnson,
Present.
Rodney Smith,
He's online.
right.
He's joining right now.
Can I hear you, Rodney?
Rodney, I believe you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Mig Gaska.
Okay, there you go. Here in spirit.
Present.
Oh, there he is. Okay. I believe we are not only a quorum, but unanimous, and therefore we have no need to seat alternates today. Item number 5, additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda. As always, start with the staff. Anybody got anything, staff? Jake?
No addition.
Robert? Chad? Nothing? Okay. Any members of the committee have any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay. In that case, I am looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Julie moves and
I'll second that.
Steve seconds. We can vote.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
You got a roll call.
Agenda is approved.
I'm sorry, Member Gasca?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public comment. Do we have any members of the public here with us today?
We have no members of the public.
No members of the public. Any requests, Therese?
I have none.
So I think we can move on to item number 8 at this point. Approval of minutes. All of you have the minutes that Therese prepared from our last meeting. And so I'm asking the members of the committee, are there any suggested changes or corrections to the minutes? If there are, please speak up. If not, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the minutes.
Still move.
Okay, Mig moves. Need a second?
Second.
Okay, Julie seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Thank you. And the roll call vote for Director Gasca?
Aye.
Or member, thank you.
Okay. Should I be doing a roll call vote or?
Since he's remote, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
No.
missed that.
I
Sorry.
misled you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Well, I've violated procedure. Send me to jail. Okay, item 9A, comments and requests. Item 9A, General Manager. That'd be you, Jake.
Yeah, just a couple quick things. Some of you may have been at the board meeting, but at our last board meeting, May, the board approved our fiscal year 25-26 budget. And so along with that, our CIP is about 4.6 million in CIP this coming year. So Chad and his group are feverishly opening those projects, and we'll be getting those going. That includes really a host of projects, but additional tank recoats that'll be coming this year, pipeline replacement up at Eagles Perch, But some notable projects that we'll be kicking off. So you'll see those come through in the design contracts and such in the months ahead. So really excited about that to take on some really needed projects that we've been kind of waiting on for a while. Wanted to give you an update also on the Pipeline 4 shutdown. So as we've been talking about over the last couple of months, we were notified that the County Water Authority was going to initiate I don't know if they called it an emergency project, but it was a rushed project to repair a section of the aqueduct that they'd had some wire breaks in pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe they'd seen a number of breaks over the last couple of years, and so wanted to put some reinforcing inside that pipeline. Requires a shutdown. Pipeline 4 is one of our main lifelines. It feeds Connection 8 and Connection 9, which are workhorses for us. So really a good test of our resiliency, our reliability. And I think what we're seeing is the investments that we've made over the last 18 months, both in the pump stations that we constructed and also in our good relationships with our with our neighbors, are really paying dividends right now. That shutdown started on Saturday. We haven't lost an inch in storage. We've got supply going into the zone. We've had a couple of hot days. I know Sunday was pretty warm. Yesterday was pretty warm. We're getting a little break in the weather now, which is nice. Should keep demands kind of moderate, but in reality, I think it's kind of a new era for Rainbow's reliability. I mean, in the past, I think I mentioned this. We would have been putting out billboards saying reduce your water use, and we probably would have put out alert to our grove managers. You might and you heard Rick Carey say this. I think it was the last board meeting, or maybe it was the budget and finance. Should they pick now, right? System to make sure they say that. Well, we're not going. I don't think we're going to have any water restrictions. It's a really good thing. So anyways, and a lot of credit to our not a lot. A ton of credit to our operations team. I mean, they've worked really hard over the last couple of months to make sure that we were in this position to not, so our customers didn't even feel a shutdown of this magnitude. And I mean, normally it's probably 3/4 of our supply. So that's the kind of buffer we have. Taken that offline and being able to kind of function in a different manner, we've been able to make that up. So anyways, really, really positive for Rainbow, kind of our internal reliability. It's huge for us. So
Big question on that, just remind me, did that also require lighting up some of the Fallbrook interconnects then?
we do. We have one going now, the King Ridge that just got completed. So that was the agreement that went through. And that was really the intent of that interconnect, was a Connection 8 shutdown, which we didn't know was going to happen in June, but we had kind of planned on that. And so getting that in place, obviously is big for us. So
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to chime in, because I saw that Chad had posted on LinkedIn, the app, some information and a link to a short video that involved those pump stations that were replaced. And I took that link and I posted it on Nextdoor, and we ended up getting like about 585 hits on that posting. I don't know how many of them actually went to the link that I posted that, provided that, information on those pumps that were added. But, there was some feedback I got on Nextdoor about basically Chad's input. So just
Yeah,
that.
it was a good video. It was a video that EFI put together quite a while ago, but it was a good video. So anyways, lots of good news there. I mean, I think we're going to keep, kind of keep our pedal to the metal here on even continuing to improve our reliability. You'll hear a little bit more about that when we're going over our the grants and grant applications that we have in today. Talking about things like backup power and things like that. But I think Again, over the last 18 months, we've made some really huge moves as far as increasing Rainbow's reliable water supply. So
Jake, when, or Robert, whoever is best, Chad, when they say that they're going to shut down the pipeline, and they say they're going to shut it down effective June 1st, does that mean that they turn the switch off on June 1st, or do they begin a set of preparatory actions that results in the light switch being switched off on June 2nd or June 3rd? I mean, how does that work?
well, we needed to be off by midnight Saturday. Robert can expand on that. I think there is a series of events that takes place, but basically that's the time they start shutting
They
down.
tell us to stop taking water by that time, and then they shut down and they literally turn the valve off at Skinner.
Okay.
For lack of a better term, they turn that off. The line drains down. They open up valves, drain it out. So that's what they've been doing over the weekend, is draining it out now.
But from our perspective, there's no advance activities that occur after the time that they tell us that the shutdown starts. When the shutdown starts,
That's
the
it.
switch is off for us, right?
Right.
Okay, that's all. All right, thank you.
That's all I got.
Yeah, okay. Item 9B, engineering and CIP manager. Chad?
Yeah, thank you.
It's the Chad,
Okay.
right?
We have a pretty good agenda, but something that did come up in between meetings was on the past engineering activity report that went to the board at its May 27th meeting. And so I just want to, because I'm looking at it right now, the report for all departments is a month in arrears. So it's the April activities for the May report. So when it comes to E&O, you're looking at something from April in June. But that's just the way it works. But just a couple updates on some projects that have happened, because it said activity would be in May, and we are there. So specifically on the Camino del Rey waterline relocation project, which is in Division 1. This is a County of San Diego CIP project. It does have impact to our existing water line and sewer lines. We have hired a land surveying firm who has surveyed both the buried facilities, appurtenances above ground, and the right of way with our easements, if we have the easements in the area. We are working with Naslund Engineering, who is also the County of San Diego's design engineer firm, to do an overlay of our improvements, conflicts, and how that'll incorporate into their project. Jake, you and I, we met, it's been about
Couple months.
3 or 4 months
Yeah.
that we met with the County of San Diego. They are working through some alignment issues with the landowners on Camino del Rey and some other utility, SDG&E and AT&T, I believe. And so the project is a little ways out, which actually helps the district prepare these documents and go from there. So we are working with Naslund Engineering on an alignment study at this point of exactly where our facilities are that are going to be in conflict and how would we realign those for that. So we're working on that. The Gopher Pump Station project, also in Division 1. This was awarded by the board to Dexter Wilson Engineering. We had our first kickoff meeting just a couple of weeks ago with Dexter Wilson Engineering. And so we have a new lead. They had a long-term employee, I think it was 40 years. I think he was there like to the day,
Oh, yeah.
retire. And so we got to meet his replacement and bring that person up to speed on the project. So the next meeting will be when we get to 30% design on that project, but we are on target and underway for the Gopher Pump Station project. And then the last update, the Havens Country Club pool, formerly the Vista Valley Country Club, they are constructing a pool facility adjacent to the country club restaurant and building itself. They are actively out there working. We are inspecting it. So the water service, the fire hydrant, all of that is going in. The Havens now, it used to be the Vista Valley Country Club, the Calavie Spa, and Bonzel Oaks. That is now all under the Havens umbrella. And then they have different entities within it, but it's all the Havens now. Any other questions I could answer on the engineering activity report? Okay.
Hey, Chad, on the first, on the county project, as they so I want to be sure I understand. It's the county project and their plans require Rainbow to adjust in some way. And you're working on the engineering side. Is there sort of like they will pay for any of our adjustments, or do they expect us to pay some amount?
So the technical answer is it depends.
Yeah,
Right now, we are working on who actually has the senior rights. Is it Rainbow or is it the County of San Diego? And that is an ongoing, not debate, discussion, I guess is the way we would put that.
Yes.
It's an ongoing discussion between the two agencies. So that is a to be determined at this point.
okay. Given my business, I like the word senior.
Yeah,
So,
as do we.
yeah. So I guess I guess there's some sort of understanding about seniority would be the better, right?
I believe so. Yeah. If whichever agency prevails with senior rights, then the junior agency relocates at its expense.
Right.
Yes.
When do you anticipate knowing the outcome of that debate?
You think this calendar?
I think so. Yeah. By this calendar year, I know Chad mentioned that we had, we've been working on some survey and easement. So that's all, it's really all related to that discussion. The meeting that we had at the county, it was primarily really to discuss, we know the facilities need to be relocated. What's the best way to relocate those facilities? We want to make sure whoever's paying for it, it goes in the right place. And so that was
Right.
that was kind of the first step. But we did all agree at that meeting that we were both of us were kind of still working on the right of way and kind of piecing together history in that area, and we would get back together as a separate topic in the next several months. So that's kind of where we're at with that. It's very important.
Yeah, no, very important. One last follow-up question. At what level of the county are you speaking to right now?
We are at their capital improvement division, I believe it is.
Okay,
Public Works.
got it. So you're in the bureaucracy.
A bit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just that I get an email from Jim Desmond every day. So whenever you think it's appropriate but to get your facts straight first is a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, I think as Jake mentioned, right now, both agencies are aware of the potential conflict should their project go forward. And if that happens, the pipeline has to be removed for the improvements to happen. So we will square up with how that gets paid when it comes, but it has to be designed right now.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, one question. How many property owners involved in, the right of way stuff?
Yeah, dozen or more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
that's all on the County of San Diego's end. Rainbow doesn't have anything to do with that right now.
yeah. Okay.
Just a comment. Every time we talk about this project, it kind of gives me a little knot in my stomach, because when I ran a bunch of projects for the city and county of San Francisco, the way the game was played had nothing to do with who'd been there longer, the superior rights and whatever all that is. The way the game worked is whosever project is causing a disturbance or a need for relocation pays. And how did we get away from that? Because it was still in the state of California. Now, granted, San Francisco is a combined city and county. I don't know if that has anything to do with it's a charter city, but those were the rules of the road back then. What has changed that some guy can wake up and decide he wants to move a road and then he gets to make all the utilities pay for it? What's the deal?
Well, that's the letter of the law. I don't know if that changed at some point. I don't know when that changed, but ever since I've been doing this, if the road was there and you required an easement to get in the road, and they came back and said, I want to build a undercrossing or a bridge or whatever it was, and I need you to move your facility, you pay to move it, regardless of whose idea or if we think it's a good idea. And vice versa too. If our easement was there and then they brought the road, then
Frustrating. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Any other questions for Chad? for the Chad?
And
I had a question, but it has been answered.
Okay.
so the only other thing that I have is last week, Malik Tamimi and myself, along with Carrie Dale from Hope Consulting, attended the APWA luncheon where the district received an award for the pump station project. At first, I thought it said honor award, so I was like, okay, everybody's a winner kind of thing, but that's not the case. Of all the applications for project of the year in our category, which I think we were in the $5 to $25 million category. Only 2 awards are given, an honor award and a project of the year award. So that made me feel a lot better. That award will be presented. We gave that to Therese. So that'll be presented to the board at their June board meeting.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Well done.
Perseverance
There you go.
wins.
Yeah. So, and we
Absolutely.
did some to CSDA and a couple other firms. So we're still waiting to hear back on those. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the Chad? Nope. Okay. 9C, operations manager comments. Robert?
How much time do I have?
We'll give you 10.
All right, I'll take half of that.
Okay.
So 2 gentlemen in the audience here, Bernardo Nunez, he's our acting construction supervisor. Not sure if everybody knew, but Issa is now at Rincon and took the operations manager position over there. Bernie's gonna be talking about item 14 and has a short 6-slide presentation, so that'll go quick. And then Alex is our cross connection control specialist, and he's gonna help me talk about item 13. Jake already covered the treated water shutdown, and yes, we're doing good right now. So keeping the fingers crossed on that. But what I want to talk about quickly is the fire that we had on Friday night and give you the inside scoop on that.
Didn't know we had one. Go for
Yeah,
it.
we did.
Thank you.
So Friday night, I want to say it was about 5:30-ish PM. We got the notifications on the Watch Duty app that there was a fire out in the Apollo Casino area. Not in our service area. No need for us to get all worked up about it, right? Not like the Lilac fire that we had here, which was, we were all over that one. And what we normally do is we just monitor. So we have cameras out of our reservoir sites and we spin them around and watch it. And we watch what they're putting out on Watch Duty and just kind of get a feel for what's going on. And as we brought the Gomez tank camera over and we're watching it for about 15, 20, 30 minutes, you could see the fire progressing by the smoke cloud. And this is the view from that camera. So that's Gomez tank up there, and that's the fire right where his cursor is. And what's interesting is left of the screen is where McGee Pump Station and McGee Tank are. So I was talking to several other employees about this, and we're holding tight. Everybody's at home. And then they threw an mandatory evacuation order for all of Rancho Heights area, which included McGee Tank and McGee Pump Zone or Pump Station, right? So they at that point, they're anticipating that fire was going to burn all the way up into that area.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, well, we need to get to the command post to find out what's the real scoop here. What are we going to be affected by this? Because now it's turned into an issue. This is a map of our service area. It's a pretty convoluted, but the blue lines, can you zoom in on that, Ahmed? So the blue lines are the perimeter of our district. That red box is the track of the fire. And this was done on, I think, Friday night. I can't remember. So it actually burned farther into our district, but it was heading towards the McGee Tank and McGee Pump Station. So we got to the command post, got the inside scoop, ran up, activated a sprinkler system at the pump station. So we have an overhead sprinkler system, got that going. And sure enough, there was just tons of smoke up there, and sheriffs was up there evacuating folks and everything. In the end, overnight, they got it knocked down pretty good. On Saturday, they were still doing some mop-up operations. Next slide. On Saturday morning, we went to the incident action plan briefing. So on large scale fires, they have a briefing every time they change operational periods. So this one's every 12 hours. So this was in the morning, a lot of firefighters there, law enforcement's there, CHP sheriffs, we were there, and SDG&E was there. They also killed the power to our pump station, which when you're in a treated water shutdown becomes a little bit concerning. So that gave us the opportunity to speak directly with SDG&E and figure, okay, what's the timeline for restoring power? Talk to the fire department and figure, okay, what do you guys have left to do to give SDG&E the okay to get the power on? Fortunately, we had enough water in storage because we had gone into the treated water shutdown. But as soon as that fire started, we started pumping water up in the McGee tank anyways. So we got about, I think it was about 2 hours of pump time before they killed the power. Next slide. So we attended that briefing, and during those briefings, you get this packet of paperwork. And basically what it does is it outlines all the actions that the fire department's going to take in fighting that fire. Next slide. As keep going. Yeah. And this is their little map of the area of what they showed the fire to. It ended up being about 250 acres after they mapped it out. They ran, there's 256 firefighters out there. And as of Saturday night, they were still dealing with some hot spots out there. But they caught it in time. They threw a lot of aircraft on it Friday night. I think if it was just a couple hours later, they wouldn't have been able to throw as many aircraft on there. It would have kept burning. So suffice it to say, we are in fire season already. That soon. Another tidbit for everybody is the AP, and thanks to Man on this, so Associated Press did a story on all the heli hydrants that have popped up in Southern California. And what was interesting about that, oh, so here's a video of the fire. So that's the burn area. You can see quite a bit of it. This was on Saturday, and some of the smoldering areas there. But yeah, the AP picked up. So our tank is right. You can barely see some trees right there on the slope. It's about right there.
Key tank.
So the AP picked up this story nationwide about the heli hydrant. My parents called me from Arizona. They live near Sedona. And my dad says, hey, our local news just covered a story about your heli hydrant. So it's gone nationwide. Pretty cool stuff. So they didn't use the heli hydrant here. They used those big giant ponds by Pollock to
Winds have picked up.
This was in the afternoon. The wind started picking up, and you could see the
Solid
rods
fire
starting to pick
activity.
up, right, with the wind.
A lot of those spot fires are starting to reach the containment line. Fire retardant.
So they actually had 2 more fires on Saturday out in I think it was Paris and Lake Hammond area. So they pulled aircraft off this fire to go deal with those. But then the winds picked up and started getting spot fires going. So they brought some of them back. Keep working this over. So yeah. Yeah.
It is impressive of the work of the team, the entire team, for the Lilac fire that got control, as well as this, because some of us were actually prepared that it could get worse. And so congratulations and impressive work.
And thank you. And one of our biggest intent is to find out what is that fire going to do to our infrastructure, right? We can't afford to lose a pump station. We can't afford to lose a sewer lift station. And we definitely, if this happened in the daytime, we had crews working somewhere, we need to get them out of the way, get them out of the area, right? So it's one of the main functions of getting somebody from Rainbow to that command post and do a face-to-face and find out really what's going on. And do we need to take action? So it's just, it's kind of amazing that we're starting fire season already. It just
Started in January, didn't it?
well, yeah, technically, right?
Year round.
Yeah,
January 22nd.
Yeah.
but
Well, it is a weird world. I'm driving back from driving to and from Denver, Colorado a week ago, and it snowed for 40 miles between Vail and Idaho Springs. Snowed, and the temperature got down to 29 degrees in late May. Go figure. Just go figure. So nothing you say surprises me now, Robert.
yeah, it does. Yeah.
I got you. Anything
Hey,
else?
No, I deferred to
You ran 8 minutes over. That's okay. We still like you. Yeah.
I got a question for Robert.
yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you guys just observed and, in a sense, sat back monitoring why, whenever there's a fire in our district, isn't somebody just sent immediately to the command post?
So it depends on, it really depends on what we have going, right? So our priority is what we do day to day.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to monitor through apps and remote cameras the fire to see if we really need to go out there or not. Because most of the time the fires will be like a 10 by 10 spot fire, right? And they'll spin up a whole vegetation response, and you got all these fire trucks, and then the first truck gets there and they're like, it's a 10 by 10 spot fire, cancel all units, we'll take care of it. So there's no reason for us to be running out there at the same time. And we're listening to the radios. So that's what when I meant say, when we're monitoring it, we want to see, are they going to get it under control, or is this thing going to start going? And that's what happened in this case. It started going, and that triggered us to get out there.
Okay, so you have a plan and
Yep.
you go through the steps to get there. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Great.
Anything else?
Great work.
Okay, we'll go to item 9D, committee member comments. Do we have any committee member comments? Robert?
Okay, follow up on the Hutton tank tree issue. I removed another 1,000 pounds of wood. So the total is 3,400 pounds that I've put in my green barrels, 17 green barrels worth. So all of the burnable wood I've removed. What's left is the burnt wood. That's 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of burnt wood still laying on the hillside, plus the ugly tree is still standing,
Yeah.
which is
We can-
burnt.
Was SDG?
When are they going to take care of that?
Look right. See.
I don't know. I think they're still arguing with
Use this
SDGE, right?
picture of that one.
Yeah, it's SDG&E's tree, correct?
We believe it was them.
Yeah, that's kind of my question is how does that do with this committee and this water utility? Is it,
all of this was on Rainbow land.
okay.
And my wife just thought it was dangerous and couldn't stand looking at it. So I got stuck.
I think it's within the
Removing everything.
SDG&E easement is what it looks like, right? They trimmed it back to
But
be off. the
technically
line.
it's still Rainbow
yeah.
land.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah.
We'll follow up. Sorry about that.
Okay.
What else were you gonna do, though? Right?
I'm done with it. I don't
No,
wanna do it anymore.
I appreciate it.
Like the old boss used to say, well, you're not doing anything between midnight and 5 a.m., Jake. Have at it. All right. We're going to move on to item number 10. This is typically the Chad, where we get board action updates, just to let the committee know what the board did with matters that we sent to them, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The thing I have is the board approved the change order with Ardura for engineering support services, which is district wide.
Mm-hmm.
And the general manager has since executed said change order. We're off to the races.
Yeah, we covered that in detail at our last,
Mhm.
We did.
last
We
meeting.
did.
And the board accepted our recommendation and moved forward.
they did.
Excellent. Okay. Item 11. And I believe this is an action item asking us to make a recommendation to the board. Award of a contractor to install manual transfer switches at Morro Hills, Valicitos, and Rainbow Hills pump stations, divisions 2 and 5. Is this?
This is going to be me and Ahmed. You want me to do it or you want? You got it. You got it. Okay. So this project is near and dear to my heart because I've been at Rainbow next month 6 years. And Ahmed and I have been working on this since my hire date nearly 6 years ago. It is nothing due to staff or the board. It's just budgetary restrictions. We got off to a start. Did we do 2 or 3 of these locations a few years ago? 3 locations, and then just due to funding or lack thereof and other priorities within the district, it just kept getting put on the back burner. And Ahmed would come to me several times and, do you think the project's ever going to get done? I'm like, it's going to get done. And so here we are. We placed this on Planet Bids. It was up there for a little over 3 weeks, I think just under a month. We're going to go through the presentation here. So this is an actual picture of Rainbow staff. This is a fireproof slash electrical, oh my gosh,
Arc flash.
arc flash suit, thank you. That our staff, our trained electricians must wear. Just suiting up on that, you can imagine your adrenaline. We took this straight out of the OSHA fact sheet. It actually says the word never, like never do this unless you're a trained electrician. And even a trained electrician has to do this. This is both turning the breaker off and then turning the breaker back on. There's equal risk in doing so. And we want to get desperately away from doing this with our staff. So the project in a nutshell is we're going to do the last of the 3 manual transfer switches, as mentioned, Morro Hills, Rainbow Hills, and the Vallecillos pump stations. This is obviously going to reduce this risk for when we have known outages, like Robert mentioned, unknown outages and emergencies. It allows staff to go out there and connect an emergency towable generator. This does not require a trained electrician to do so anymore. The project is funded in the FY 25-26 fiscal budget. Just wanted to show, it has been several years since we did this. These are some of the ones that we have already done in years past. So this is showing what inside the cabinet looks like. And then on that far right photo, those 2 red circles near the bottom of the picture, thank you, Ahmed, where you can see the cursor moving. This is literally the definition of plug and play. You plug in the generator, you flip the switch, and it is on. It's a manual transfer switch. The only thing better than this is an automatic transfer switch where it automatically senses a power outage and it just turns on the generator, which is already on site. That's the only thing better than this.
And why are we not doing that?
2 reasons. We don't have the generator. So you have to have a generator, like at the McGee pump station, the generator has to be there. So there's no point in having an automatic one.
Okay.
That's a towable that you bring up.
This is going to be towable that we would bring to these sites, correct? So that's the main reason.
Okay.
It doesn't do anything. And then the cabinetry, this can easily be upgraded to an automatic, but the automatic doesn't necessarily downgrade to this. Great
Thank
question. Okay, so just kind of want to show where we are because we're in both divisions 2 and 5. And so here's your Morro Hills pump station showing in our district boundaries, kind of in that south to the west part of our boundary. And then the next 2, Division 5, here's your Rainbow Hills, getting up there to the north, and then Vallecillos, kind of in the heart of the Rainbow area there, right to the north part of our border. So some of the information, it was posted, there's the exact, so it was just about exactly a month where we posted. Planet Bids has been very successful. I'd like to thank our general manager, Jake Wiley, for bringing this to, when he first came, he was like, why don't you all use Planet Bids? And it has been widely successful. It has actually helped the engineering department. I believe Human Resources has used it. We can post our RFPs, anything. So it's been very helpful. We had some pre-bid questions, which we answered. Then we opened bids just on May 29th. The engineer's estimate was for a little over $529,000. We received 1 bid, which typically we're like, oh man, 1 bid didn't get the attention. Fortunately, the bid came in at a really good price, and it is a contractor that the district has worked with for several years that performs at an extremely high level. So you have this known factor where we are one of its main references for its other projects that it does, and it came in at a very good price. So it is staff's recommendation to award to, I think it's going to be the next slide, to the apparent low bidder. Staff has vetted the bid, and the recommendation will be at the board to award to Southern Contracting Company in the amount of $320,000. I believe that's the last slide of it. Oh, next steps. Okay. I'm just getting ahead of myself. So this is scheduled to go to the June 24th board meeting. And if the board approves this, the district will enter into a contract, and then we would initiate work in July. You all would see this on the activity report in September. Questions?
I have a question. What would be the typical bid? Sometimes we accept a bid that's very low and then we end up having to pay more. Is this a reasonable bid?
I believe so. We budgeted $400,000. The plans, which we started about 3.5 years ago with Harrison Associates, when instead of just simply rebidding it, we had one of our senior electricians retire. We had a new staff member come on. It had been with the engineering firm for about 2 or 3 years. And so we dusted off the plans. It actually required quite a bit of updates to those biddable drawings. And we requested an updated engineer's estimate because our numbers were about 2-3 years old.
Right.
So with their estimate plus what staff put in, yeah, this is highly competitive.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. I'm glad that your antenna went up when you saw only one bidder, because that can go in a variety of different directions. The fact that the bid is almost just a little more than half of the engineer's estimate. Did you do any surgery on that to figure out either why our estimate was so high? Or did you go and find out, is there some unusual thing that they're doing that allows them to bid it so low? I just always, because as Julie alluded to, we've had people come in and lowball a bid and then they think they're going to make it up on change orders. And then they just try to, and you've really got to be on your toes, make sure your scope of work is correct. Are we certain that we've got our ducks completely in a row in terms of protection against getting jacked around here?
I believe so. These three will kind of complete the 6 total
Right.
that we need to do. So
Yep,
we have
yep,
3 under us. So
yep.
the plans that we developed went back through each department, vetted through the general manager, back to the engineer. I think the engineer's estimate, I think they just went a little on the high side. The Southern Contracting, they are based out of San Marcos. They do work for Rainbow. This is absolutely in their wheelhouse. So
And if I can chime in on that. So Southern, usually with their bids for us, they're very competitive. So they won the first manual transfer switch that we showed. That was them, and it was, I believe, Baker Electric.
it was Baker Electric. Yep.
And another contractor that didn't show up, but they're usually very competitive in their quotes. And with things like that, like we have one project that they're currently working on for us, and a part was ordered that wasn't the exact size, and they came to me, they're like, we're taking care of that, we're going to make sure that you guys are whole, and we get you a good
Typically, what kind of work have they done for us? I heard you say they did one of our earlier manual switches. What else have we seen them do for us?
They've done work here at headquarters.
Rainbow
They were
Foundation.
JW Fowler's electrical sub. So
Okay.
they teamed up with the prime contractor on that project.
They've taken care of the main panel switch that's here in this building.
Mhm.
So they replaced that, and for that one, we told them, like, we need that done in 1 day.
Were they the company when the people cut our?
Yep. When our electrical cables got stolen from behind operations trailer, they also came in real quickly and replaced the cables for us.
I think this is, again, they're in our backyard. They've done work with us.
Good.
What's that?
Good.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah,
so I think they know what, oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I think when you're looking at these things too, and this is a good point. I think sometimes the engineer's estimates too, the trouble has been they've had hard time keeping up with the contractor
Yes.
pricing, but I think we've leveled to some degree. Maybe not as hot as it was, but I think you see those kind of cycles go where all of a sudden, the engineers get burnt 3 or 4 times on
Other
the
than shy.
estimate, and so everything goes up by 30% or 40%, because you don't want to, the owner will tell you, better get your shovel out. You were low, you were the low bid. They don't like hearing that. I think on the other end too, and this is something we've talked a lot about, is having a reputation as a district that treats its contractors fair, that kind of works cooperatively, that pays on time, that does those things. And I think so. This is a contractor that knows we do those things. That always helps you when you put these things out to bid. I think putting it on a public platform like that too, Planet Bids, regardless of the relationship, it makes everybody sharpen their pencil, because even just the threat of, this is kind of a niche job. It's small for these contractors and that kind of thing. But again, even if we only got one, the illusion of, it really helps. So I think kind of all those factors, because I took a hard look at the plans too, and we made sure the bid list was pretty detailed, and the work that we needed, anything underground, was shown. I don't see a lot of risk here either with change orders. Most of it is above grade work. It's facilities you can see and touch, and you know what's in the way. There is a little bit of underground, but it's it's all basically on site. So didn't see a lot of risk with this one either. Not to say there couldn't be a change order or two, but I think it's as far as those contingencies and things, I think it's fairly low risk.
Speaking of risks, could you please go back to the photo? I had the honor of visiting some of this, and this is not acceptable that employees were, at least when I was there, the concerns of the safety of our staff. So if there's no further discussion, I move for option.
I think Rodney has the same.
Oh, right, okay. Because that's a concern. And thank you for your persistence on not letting this go.
Rodney.
Yes, sir. What I found very persuasive very early in Chad's presentation and Jake's follow-on comments is that this is a vendor you have an ongoing relationship with, you have history of fine performance. So I would agree, Flint, when you only see one, you wonder. I get that, but I think since there's a pre-existing relationship that's proved satisfactory to staff, I think that's probably an overriding consideration of favorability in my perspective. One last thing in my business, oftentimes engineering estimates are blown up because of the fact of who engineers are. And they want to be sure that their clients don't find that they underestimated costs too. And this is sounding like it's a pretty, Jake, it's pretty vanilla type project, right?
Yeah, not a lot of risk. Yeah, not a lot,
yeah.
Cost risk, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I won't take any offense to that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rodney. And the fact that I asked a couple of questions is simply that I've just learned over time, it never hurts to check all the boxes when you have a situation, ask about the estimate, ask about who the bidder is, what kind of work have they done with us before? Are we sure we're happy with either very high or very low compared to estimate? And to me, they're just pro forma boxes that need to be checked. And so,
oh yeah, no, I was not objecting
to ask those questions. So, but I completely agree with Rodney and with Julie. And Julie, do you have a motion?
I have a motion that the committee adopts action number 1. Or option 1.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Julie seconds and Julie moves and Steve seconds a recommendation that the board move forward with this project and adopt option 1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, option 1. Is there any discussion of this? Otherwise, we'll have a vote. Okay, are you going to do the vote? Okay, Teresa's going to do the vote because we got one guy on Zoom. That'd be Mig.
Member McKesson?
Aye.
Member Marnett?
Aye.
Member Irvine?
Aye.
Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Gaska?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I'm sorry. Member Nelson?
Aye.
Now it's unanimous.
Happy eye. Yep. Okay. All right. So item 11 has passed. Let's move to item 12. Review projects. Okay. Review projects utilizing on-call as needed services. I think the gestation of this is that when we did some reprogramming of as needed funds away from certain vendors and to other vendors, we built up quite a little nest egg, particularly in the civil engineering world. And so the idea was, what are we going to spend all that money on? Do we have work to fill that out? At the time, I was thinking maybe we could just bag one of them and we didn't need all of those civils. But it turns out I think that we do. And I think then, Chad, you decided that if we're going to take a look at the civil work need to be done. Let's just take a look at the whole program, right? Is that where we are?
That's where we are.
Okay, fire away.
Yeah, and so this, we even put legal in here, which is not on our on-call as needed, but as we went through it, let's just see any discipline that would be needed on any project, and we plugged it in. To that comment about maybe we could ditch one, we are currently working at our Lift Station 1 project, which is adjacent to the proposed schoolhouse lift station project. And
Thank you.
in discussions and coordination with the County of San Diego, we have reached out to all 4 of our on-call civil firms to help us do some site planning work at lift station number 1. And 2 of the 4 have, one said they're too busy, the other said just not really into this right now. And so we're down to 2. So when you reduce that number, because if the other 2 come in and they are just too high, where we're like, this is just not this, for this level of effort, this is too much money, we might not use the on-call as needed. We might go out to someone else that's a little bit more hungry to do it. But yeah, I think keeping the 4 firms makes sense. So yeah, thank you, Therese. She's handing out some hard copies. We also have it on the screen for those attending virtually. But as you go through it, Camino del Rey, Waterline, and I'm open to the committee's input here. Do you want me to go through each project line by line? This came at the request of the committee. Do you want to review and digest? How would you like to go about this?
Well, we originally wanted to see how the civils were going to be used.
Civil is on almost every project.
Yeah, so I think if you had a plan, execute your plan.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go quickly.
Yeah.
So civil is listed on nearly every project. Camino del Rey, we mentioned we're already working with Nasland Engineering. The EV charging stations that we're working on here, state mandate for EV vehicles. The master plans is not part of the on-call as needed. That's actually on Planet Bids as we speak. So that's an actual RFP that's out there. Our 4 on-call firms may very well propose on that, but it's not going to them. The Gopher pump station also requiring civil did not go to the just the on-call as needed. So we have Dexter Wilson there, who happens to be one. Lookout Mountain pump stations with enclosures, civil. Just kind of jumping down. The new district headquarters, Building 2, old operations building, and Building 1, the main building, the building we're in right now. We just have NA right now because we just don't know exactly what we're going to do. So we would probably start with an architect who would then bring some other disciplines in there, but it's just not enough information there. And you can see those are all 3 the same project number, but the way staff is working them is kind of 3 simultaneous components there. The tanks are excluded because those are under contract with USG. So that's why that has NA. And then again, any of these pipeline projects, Gopher, Rice, Apollo Mesas, all are going to require civil, environmental, survey.
Question, where is Eagles Perch?
Camino del Rey near Saratoga Estates.
Okay.
We have a section of water line that runs behind, is it about 4 or 6 properties?
Yeah.
The water line runs right through everyone's backyard.
I think I remember seeing a graphic on that. Yeah. Looked
yeah.
pretty hairy. Okay. Yeah.
So
right.
we want to bring
right.
that into the front.
And then Rice Canyon Road water main replacement. Didn't we do some work on Rice Canyon at the request of a developer?
That was the Rice Canyon 18-inch transmission main.
Right.
This is the old pipe that's actually in Rice Canyon Road. The one you're talking about comes actually through the back country into the 600.
So geographically, these 2 Rice Canyons are not close together.
As the crow flies, they're close, but this one is in the east of the roadway, and that one you're talking about, you could actually see if you looked out our window and over the freeway.
Okay.
A lot of these pump station rehabilitations, they're just all getting to the end of life. Again, you can see on some of them, like jumping down to the schoolhouse lift station, which is developer driven. That's going to require survey and geotech. The Rancho Montserrat, Rancho Viejo lift stations. This is part of our EPA grant project. I'm on near the end of the first page, project number 530023. So when we get to that point, we will be reaching out to civil This is where it's something we would start with our on-call as needed. And if they're saying, you know, we just don't specialize in sewer lift stations or generators, we might broaden that search, but that's where we would start. That's pretty much the highlights. Fortunately, there's not a lot of legal that we're foreseeing, which is always a good thing. But a lot of civil and a lot of survey.
Chad, down at the end, Lake Garden, where is that?
Lake Garden CIPP. So this is for sewer. Robert, is that the one that runs through off of Reche Road?
Yep.
It's Reche Road. It goes through the mobile home park heading south and then through Paula Mesa.
Okay, thank you.
Does any committee member want to dive in deeper on any one of them?
I do not. I just would like to know if you have a sense of, I think I added up and we have $450,000 worth of civil spending authority sitting there. Okay. Do you have a sense as to how much of that will be consumed by the menu you put in front of us here?
I wish my crystal ball was that accurate.
Well, I can just tell you, if you went out and did civil on all these projects, you're probably 5 times that amount, or maybe 10 times that amount.
Which means,
but these wouldn't probably all go, you'll probably have some separate RFPs for some of these projects is what you'll end up having.
So what you're saying is that this menu of projects is not going to be completed by at all, or by the civil engineering as needed contract?
I would think that not all of these will be completed by the as needed, but I think the dollar amount will definitely exceed the 450,000 threshold for sure.
And these are approved projects in our CIP program, right?
Well, the board technically only approved
1 year at a time. Yeah.
We've looked at 5, but
this is the
list.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. This is a great list. Thank you.
And I think to that credit, the list is not really changing. We're chipping away at the same list, which is also a good thing.
Yeah,
I know, because I'm going to go home and compare it to one I got like 2.5 years ago.
There you go.
Make sure it's plain
This is
vanilla.
also paced out up to 5 years.
Yeah,
This goes out to year 5. That's correct.
Got a question.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I got a question. Looking at the part of the table that I see, there's the first item under replacement rehabilitation, the Rancho Montserrat. Don't move it. Go back. Don't move it. Go back.
Down at the bottom.
Rancho Viejo LS HQB plant emergency generators. And then there's Lake Garden CIPP and line manholes for as 2 examples. Which one has higher priority?
Well, the generators are first. That's we have one that's failed, and the others are way beyond their useful life. And that's actually the funding that came through EPA is going to be used for that project. So there is a timeline, well, an accelerated timeline put on those. So those will go first.
So if I look at each section above it, it's prioritized and ranked most critical at the top and then in descending order.
No, because if you see that green bar, you've segued into sewer projects.
Right.
But it is sorted by, as Ahmed has just highlighted, it is sorted by a year 1 project, which has its highest ranking. And then you have a multi-year project, the North River Road one, and then you get out to year 3, year 4. So those are a lower priority, and that's why they're in a future fiscal year.
Okay, so that's where we find the prioritization on project here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for the Chad?
This is very helpful. Thank you.
I think it is. I think it's very helpful. It's very good.
Could we please have that available earlier
Sure.
in the meeting?
Sure. In the meeting or
Well,
part of the packet?
part of the packet.
Sure.
Thank you.
One go back. It might be worth, it might be on a table I don't see, a column of the table I don't see, but it might be worthwhile to have somewhere in there which specific divisions within the district each project is within.
Okay.
You know, and if it's across multiple divisions, you know, that would be worthwhile to know.
Okay, yeah, we could add either put it by the project number / division number or add a new column. Okay, noted. Thank you.
And I think
Yes,
this is something, I mean, if the committee's interested, you know, maybe on a, probably not a monthly basis. We're probably not going to go in every month and do this, but I don't know, maybe quarterly or something like that. We can kind of go in and, hey, where we're at with these things. Yeah, twice a year, whatever.
Sounds good.
Whatever we feel, yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, is everybody ready to move on to item 13? Okay, then that's what we'll do. Cross Connection Control Policy Program Update.
Yeah, so cross connection control policy, essentially what that is the policy that governs cross connection. What's cross connection? It's when a non-potable source of water is connected to our drinking water. Essentially the backflow devices. That's what this policy is talking about. So backflow devices behind somebody's meter, and let's say the simple form of that is you've got a farmer that's injecting chemicals to help grow their avocados. We have this above ground backflow device that when we shut our water line off or there's a main break, that it stops the flow of water going reverse into our water lines. So it's a pretty important piece of equipment to protect our water system. The State Water Resources Control Board is the governing agency for backflow and cross connection. And over the last, how long have you been here? 4 years. 4 years, yeah. Over the last 4 years, and a lot of credit to Alex, since he's been here, our program has been up and running and just really testing all the backflows every year. And we have to report that to the state of California. Since he's been here, we've gotten all of them tested every single year. We've also gotten to the point where we send out lock-off notices if people fail to make repairs or whatever the case may be. Right. They fail the test, right? All these things. So we're actually following through with notices. He's on the phone with those ratepayers. So we've essentially reformed our whole program over the last 4 years, and a lot of credit goes to Alex. And it's a very strong program. But with the state, what they're asking all the water purveyors in California to do is update their policies. And now they've come out with this boilerplate policy for everybody. So they're just bringing everybody into alignment so they don't have everybody's different, right? And that's basically what there's a lot of verbiage. They've changed some definitions. We already have in our admin code, the backflow policy. We updated it 2022 was the last update we did. So this is another update, but this is mandated by the state. And they're asking for a resolution from the board of directors that we updated our policy to adopt it, correct. There's a couple of different things in here that are getting pushback from some water purveyors. One of them is if you have a well site, they're asking that we enforce people that have wells that also have one of our water meters have an air gap.
If they're interconnected.
If they're interconnected with one of our meters. So an air gap means the well is filling a tank and not plumbed directly in the system. There's an issue with that. The County of San Diego issues well permits. We do not. We're not the permitting agency for wells. So it's an interesting dynamic in San Diego County. So a lot of the agencies in San Diego County are talking to the state and being, there's an issue here.
Meaning that means then we wouldn't know that they're putting in a well? Is that what
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Nor do we have jurisdiction really on their property.
You wouldn't know it and/or nor.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But they're asking us to do some enforcement.
Yeah.
Remember, we're talking about the state of California here, so take that with a grain of salt.
They don't have an automatic notification process that when somebody files a permit to drill a well, that they don't notify the water purveyor?
No.
No, that'd be too smart. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
And it's not any different in Riverside County. I'll just tell you that.
Is it in any county?
I don't know.
San Francisco.
Yeah, they drill a lot of wells in San Francisco. Well drilling country. Okay.
The other issue that we're having, or that's coming into question, is new homes that have fire sprinkler systems, right? Because the thought is, you have a residential home, so that's the mandate now. New homes being built need to have fire sprinkler systems. But if you have a residential home that has fire sprinkler systems, do they need to have a backflow preventer? Well, the question is yes, because if that water sits in those pipes and we have a main break, or something happens, that water drains back in our pipe, in our system.
But didn't the water come from us in the first place?
It did, but,
It's-
but it's been, let's say that house is 5 years old, that water's been sitting in there and it's bad water now, right? It's rotting.
You have stale
fluorine,
water in the
stale
fire,
water.
in the fire system, yeah.
So
Nasty black iron pipe, you know, if they have that and the water just sits up there, unless there's a fire and they're being utilized, then that stagnant water can potentially be sucked, you know, sucked backwards.
Is the feed of that water though, then after the backflow, after the meter though, right? Not. So if you've got a backflow on your connection to Rainbow, the fire water would not backflow either.
correct.
Exactly,
But,
yeah.
so what's the issue then?
The issue is the homes that have been built with fire sprinkler systems that don't have backflow devices.
Ah, okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
and going off that, in the past, it was acceptable from, you know, State Water Resources Control Board that if you had a check valve installed in line in your fire sprinkler system, typically they're in like behind a panel in the garage, just a little check valve. Then if you had that and no other hazards on the property that would typically require a backflow device at the meter, then you could, you know, get by without having an RP, a backflow at the meter.
Okay.
But going forward, they're going to require a backflow at the meter, you know, regardless if you have a check valve in line
So that
downstream.
they're requiring it about as much as they're requiring us to have EV vehicles, right? State came out and says everybody's got to, now they're realizing that's an issue. This issue of having backflows on houses with sprinklers, there's two different issues. For new construction, okay, there's something that can be done with that, right? You can put what's called a passive purge system. So essentially when you flush the toilet, the water goes through the fire sprinkler system, and so it's always constantly being refreshed. Simple solution. The question is, what do you do with the homes that don't have backflow devices that are already built and have sprinkler systems? And that's where water agencies are pushing back against the state on this requirement and looking for amendments and, you know, how do we deal with this? Because there's a financial burden on the district. So it's kind of an unfunded mandate, just like EVs. Everybody needs to buy electric vehicles, but we're not going to help you pay for that. So it's an unfunded mandate, and there's some pushback on that right now. There's a timeline for all this. It's about 10 years to figure all this out. So nothing has to happen in the next 6 months, you know, where we're running around telling our ratepayers, you got to put backflow devices in.
Well, one thing has to happen. We've got to adopt the new plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that's
got to
the one
adopt the
thing
new
we-
plan.
has to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Sounds very fascinating. I'm thinking about what you said, either Robert and Alex, about the stale water sitting up there percolating in the sprinkler system, that it's okay to squirt that water all over somebody's home and in their clothes and on their furniture and maybe on them, but we can't have a chance of this minute amount of water backing into the overall water supply, which is billions of gallons probably at some point. Help, I mean, I just
Yeah.
don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Fix it.
You're actually supposed to be flushing that thing once a month anyway.
But
It's
the
really
reality-
dangerous if you got pipes for that water to be sitting in there, not just for the water system, but for your fire sprinkler
Yeah.
system. So everybody who has that system should have a release valve on there, and you're supposed to go in there monthly at the minimum, quarterly, and blow all that water out and replace it. with
Yeah.
fresh
Maybe that's a
water.
newsletter piece, huh?
That would be a good news. That's really smart, bro.
Well, yeah, because it's gonna corrode the pipes if it just sits in.
Yeah, that's
The
smart.
good news is
Comment.
we have, how many backflows do we have? 5,000?
Yeah, 4,900 and some change, almost 5,000 in our
Okay,
system.
So, and we have 8,771 total meters in the system. So quite a bit of our meters are
Five
already
eighths.
backflowed, right?
Right.
So we've already been headed in the right direction for years now.
Yeah, which is way more percentage wise, you know, backflows per meter than most other districts.
One thing that we're gonna do probably sooner than later is survey the residents and find out who has sprinkler systems. Right? Probably send out a postcard or we'll figure that out. And we'll probably go back to had a brain fart. What's the committee that Yeah, customer service. We're gonna go back to that committee and kind of come up with a way of how to reach out to the customers. You just do a survey and see who has fire sprinkler system. Once we have that information, then we say, okay, let's say it's 1,000. Then we need to go inspect them and see, do they have backflows? Do they have a double check? What do they have going on with their system? And then kind of get that number funneled down. And then see what the next step is from there, but.
Good.
I have a question. Just clarification. With the three options staff recommends, is it safe to assume that the staff is recommending option 2?
We're gonna recommend option 1. I mean, we need to adopt the policy in accordance with the State Water Resources Control Board. There will be ongoing discussions about kind of some of the issues that we see, and we're not alone in seeing those issues. It's we've seen Eastern put out something on it, you know, just and it's not just them working alone. They're working with the fire agencies as well, who have an issue with you know, one of the other issues with the putting a backflow in is a lot of these fire sprinkler systems were designed with a pretty small factor of safety. So when you introduce a backflow preventer, you have more pressure drop through that system, right? And so some of these houses, they may not pass that pressure threshold now adding a backflow. So even the fire departments are concerned. You know, if that was going to be the solution, it really needed to be designed before the house was built. Because then you'd be talking about upsizing piping and, you know, all kinds of different things. So, so I think there's a lot more to come on it, but the bottom line is they want us to adopt, or they're requiring us to adopt this policy. It is a uniform policy. It's not a bad policy. There's just a couple of issues that we're going to have to work through. And it actually doesn't even guarantee that that's actually a policy that they're going to approve. We actually have to then submit it to them, and they're going to review it and get back to us. So it's a bit of a process. It's a bit of a bureaucratic process that we have to go through, but that's why we're bringing it to you. We are going to request that the board adopt the policy. And I want to give a lot of credit to Therese. Therese has done a ton of work on making everything fit together, right? Our admin code, they had kind of some definitions that were crossed up and things like that. And she spent days and days and days going through and creating a nice looking policy that all jives with one another, that fits both in our admin code and the attachments. So yeah, and these guys as well, these guys, Alex and Robert working with Therese, but so we spent a lot of time making it clean. Again, we're going to have to work through these issues over the next few years, but
so can we sell this to other water districts, that we've got a great pro forma program policy that you can adopt? You too can have this. If you just give us $500 or $1,000, we'll give you our pro forma and you can copy it and use it. Because somebody's got to do that by now.
Well, we're going to pay.
This is all vanilla.
A lot of the districts are working together to try to create a unified front, so to speak, to kind of not go against the state like it's some kind of rebellion, but it is kind of like that.
Right.
Everyone's pushing back because
Speaking up against the stupid. I got it.
So-
I got it.
Well, we're going to post it online. They can
So
just
are
steal
we
it.
clear that
Get some money for it.
you're asking for our input on a policy that is not
Not optional.
it's not optional, but it needs
not a drill.
significant work. And so you're asking the committee to endorse this, knowing that it is not a solid policy.
It is a solid policy. There are just a couple of issues I think that haven't been fully vetted. And it could turn out that the state says they don't care and you're going to have to vet it anyways. And we would have to do that. But I think what we're saying is we do need to adopt this policy. And we're going to continue to work with our partners, with the state, to make the proper amendments to try to make it as workable as we can.
Because Julie, we're
All of our
required to adopt the freaking policy. That's the
So-
thing here. We're required to do it.
With serious reservation?
It's an on or off switch. You either adopt it, a policy that's in compliance, or you don't, I think.
But I think staff is saying, hey, obviously we see these
Right.
issues and we're going to continue to pursue kind of best solutions for our residential or for all our customers.
We gotta trust Alex here is gonna figure out a path through the woods.
Yeah. And there's things in motion, like for example, going off what Jake was saying, there's a meeting on the 17th, for example, between Eastern and some other cross connection specialists. I'm not exactly sure who's all there, but they're meeting with the state to go over specifically the fire sprinkler system and whether passive purge is going to be considered acceptable, in lieu of backflows at the meter. There's just details that are still being fleshed out. It's super convoluted.
Yeah, and I think the state recognized it too, and that's why there is this 7-10 year phase-in period, right? Where we identify the customer, so there is going to be adjustments as time goes along.
So I have a question. Who came up with this golden July 1 deadline?
State of California,
So the
State Water
state
Resources.
chose a deadline. Is anyone in the government proposing an extension until these issues are resolved?
Not that I've heard. In
Not
fact,
that
so we have a local engineer that works for the state under the water section that we report to, right? We have a positive back T or anything with our water system. And they sent an email out, say, hey, don't forget, you got to turn this in by July 1st. Okay, we're on it.
I think Rodney has a comment.
As the discussion continues, it's getting more confusing. Has the state board approved the regulation or is it proposed?
They have approved it, but much like the EVs where they came out and says, you have to do this. And then and they said the industry will catch up with the EVs. The industry never caught up with it. So then the industry pushed back, and that's essentially the same exact things happening with the backflow situation. If you go back to the EV situation with all the utilities banding together and going to the state and saying, hey, you're forcing us to go EVs. Now there's a bill that passed the House of Representatives about making utilities classified as emergency vehicles that would allow us not to go down the
Giving us relief.
Yeah.
We're getting some relief.
Rod, just to clarify too, they did pass, basically the provisions of this policy. So they said all utilities must adopt the provisions of this policy. Like Flynn had kind of mentioned, getting it all in there into your existing policy is kind of the hard part. That's what we've done. That's what staff has kind of worked to do. So we've done that, and we've met all the provisions that are required. Now we submit it to them, and they'll come back with comments at some point.
Who knows when?
That's kind of where it's at. They have adopted these policies that have to be put in place in our policy, and so that's what we're doing.
Okay. When you go to the consumer, it may be helpful to give some information, because I heard some things that over time, as houses have been built, certain systems have been installed. Is there any sense of the timing of when any of that was required for a new home? Are we talking about homes that have been built in the last 30 years or the last 5 years?
Well, I know the fire sprinkler that came about it's about 10 years ago. Maybe not even that.
I think it was more.
Was it more than that?
Yeah.
I remember when we had to adopt all the policies for that. That's when you started seeing the bypasses and things like that go in with meters. But yeah, it's been at least 10, 12, maybe even more than that.
It may be helpful.
There's a lot of homes out there that have fire sprinklers, obviously.
Right, yeah. And so it just may help for the communications strategy is to try to give some background facts so someone can look at it, because someone may say, I have no clue whether or not I have, a fire sprinkler system.
Sure.
But if the house was built at a later date, they didn't know it, but they do.
Yeah.
You couldn't just look at your ceiling and figure out that you've got
things.
If you know what it is, you could, but not everyone knows that.
Not everyone would know.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty stupid, but I know that my house does not have a fire suppressant
Are you sure?
system. Okay. I can look at the ceiling. Ain't no nozzles up there.
Okay. Yeah, the point is someone may not know what those nozzles are.
I got the keen grasp of the obvious here. Okay.
No,
Let's
I- I guess I have a question here. I'm still baffled by this. where all these agencies are meeting and discussing this. Have I missed that an agency may have come up with a win-win to address this in compliance and word it so that we understand that there are still issues to be resolved?
I think the meetings are ongoing. And as far as the fire sprinkler issue, I think what the districts and the fire departments are edging towards is saying, hey, this policy is going to work and we'll apply it for new construction.
Okay.
But old construction
And
Going
how about the
back.
wells?
and the wells, I don't even know what they're saying on the wells.
Yeah, so something on the wells is that what the state is proposing is that everybody that has a well and is knowingly interconnected with the potable system, they will be required to have an air gap system, which we discussed is, very involved, very expensive, and in many opinions, unnecessary. What the districts have, you know, proposed against that is, why is an RP? So an RP is a reduced pressure principal backflow. For those of you who don't know, it has just the relief valve component. It's the most common backflow out there that you see at almost all of our, meters. Why is an RP considered acceptable to protect against a fertilizer injection system, injecting poison, and not an auxiliary water source of unknown quality? And so that, so there's been lots of pushback with that argument, and the state has verbally said, but not in writing, well, we'd be willing to consider 2 RPs installed in sequence and having those tested 4 times a year instead of 1 time a year. And so just kind of throwing something against the wall to see if it sticks. And so in regards to the wells, it's an ongoing kind of debate. And so.
Well, I know up at Rancho Water District, they have homes totally on wells. So have they been able to come up with?
They're not.
Yeah,
They would-
they're not interconnected.
If they have a meter from Rainbow, then they fall into, if they're on their own well and
They're on their own.
no meter. from
Yeah,
us,
they don't
then
need it.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
out of
And I think the issue there is just enforcement. If the state wants to enforce it, they can enforce it,
Yeah.
but the water district doesn't have much, that's our pushback. We don't have much jurisdiction on going onto somebody's property and,
Right.
I mean, they could force us to, I guess, but really it's
Yeah.
the county is who approves wells. And so,
Right.
Yeah, what the state wants all the purveyors to do is survey all of these properties ourselves and deem whether they're interconnected or not, which is not feasible,
Yeah.
obviously. So.
So I
Wouldn't
would.
that
like
be
to
San
move- I would-
Diego County's obligation?
correct, that's what we're saying. Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What would you?
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend that the board adopt the staff recommended option here with the view that we really have no alternative. We need to adopt a policy or we're going to be in trouble with the state in some way that is not good. Let's get a policy adopted, put a little faith in the fact that people like Alex and Robert are going to be around for a while. They're going to be working on this, and maybe some smart person will figure out some doors to open that will make this workable for districts, consumers, and the regulators alike. So that's
Before you do that, I had a question and a comment. So what I understood you saying is that the state provided this boilerplate language. I was curious as to whether we did any tailoring to support our regs and policies for the district. And if we did, what percentage of it has been tailored?
That's actually a question for Therese. Therese, how much modifying and
It was adjusted to match what we are currently, our current protocol. As far as like the customer notifications that we do, the 30 days and the 30 days, and then a 15-day notification for customers. So it was, I would say maybe, what do you think, like maybe 20% of it?
Yeah, very little.
Customized to fit our district.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's what I was kind of guessing it might have been. So thank you for that answer. The other item I guess I've got is specific to the resolution and the plan. On page 23 of 84, the title says Exhibit A to Resolution Number 2025-XX. Okay. And so it's the start of our plan that's attached to the resolution. Then if you go to page 52 of 84, again, it states Exhibit A, and then it says resolution adopting the, so it's basically an attachment to the plan, okay? But they're both Exhibit A, which could create some confusion. I'd recommend changing the second Exhibit A on page 52 to attachment, because you're already using appendix for other parts of the plan. And so that's just a recommendation.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Definitely make sure there's a distinction there.
Alrighty, that was it.
I think we have a motion on the floor.
Motion to approve, recommend that the board approve option 1. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Flint moves, Greg seconds. Motion to approve option 1. Reese?
Member McKesson?
9. No.
That was a no, thank you. Member Marnett?
Reluctant aye.
Member Irvine?
Aye.
Member Johnson?
Abstain.
And Member Gasca?
Aye.
And Member Nelson?
Aye.
Motion passes with 4 ayes and 1 abstention and 1 in opposition.
1 nay. 4 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstain. The motion carries. Recommendation moves to the board.
Just a clarifying question too, and not related to the vote. Alex, the backflow. So we've got 5,000 some odd and 8,000. What's the rate of maintenance that proper maintenance? How many are out there failing or don't get maintained, or we don't know, or we're sending warnings? What's the quality of the 5,000 that are out there?
Yeah, no, good question. It's gone, the passing rate overall has gone up a little bit incrementally the last like 4 to 5 years since I've been here. I've been here 4 years now. Because beforehand they weren't being repaired nearly as much until we started to notify them to repair. But as of now, I would say it's about a 1 in 8 failure rate, something like that. I have to look at the actual numbers, but it's about that.
And
They're tested annually.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm interested in you can pay extra as a ratepayer to have it done by Rainbow, or you do it yourself and have to prove that you.
No, everybody opts in to have Rainbow.
That was my question: is what's the opt-in rate, or how many people are not opting in, and what's the quality of there?
No, so we were testing all of them in-house, all of them in-house.
All meters are being tested. Anybody that doesn't pass is told bad consequences will follow if you do not get your backflow fixed. So the answer is that the overwhelming majority of all the backflow devices are functioning fine, either before or after they get.
I was under the impression there's a $5 fee for.
There is.
Per month.
There is.
That's
So,
the test.
Yeah,
Right.
that covers the cost of an annual test.
And that's not an option.
No, that's a manual.
I thought it was an optional thing.
Mandatory.
Okay.
But see, originally we could do it ourselves, but they found that for consistency, several years ago, it was implemented that all of
And
our
we also,
backflow-
No longer an option.
and we also had a firm at one time that we contracted with that we found out was not doing
Right.
tests on a regular basis, and they were falling way behind. Everything was a mess.
Got it.
So that's why we made it mandatory.
Good.
And it's essentially mandatory to fix it. If you fail the test, it's mandatory to fix it.
And that goes for everybody,
Yep.
all districts, not just
Right,
us. Everybody's
right.
got to fix them.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we go through, test them ourselves, and if they fail, I send them a letter to repair it and they have X amount of days to repair it. Otherwise, subject to
Repair
water.
at their expense.
Correct.
Does Rainbow repair any?
No.
No.
No, it's on the.
We,
The only obligation we'd be to repair it is if, say, we had like a main break and we got some debris that got in their lateral in the backflow and it was leaking, then, you know, we would be obligated to flush it out, open it up and make that repair if it was from our end. But as far as regular maintenance as a result of a annual test failure, no, it's all completely on them.
and we did have a discussion some time ago about whether this would be an appropriate thing
Yes.
for Rainbow to be able to make the repairs.
Right.
And I think, given all of the logistics and the staffing and the other gymnastics associated with that, we decided it was better. There's a list of vendors that regularly do this, that have a relationship with Rainbow, that they can get passing grades for you quickly on your backflow. And so we decided to leave the repairs to the private sector.
Good.
Right?
More cost effective. Yeah,
Correct.
Okay,
for our customers.
so we're done. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Item 14.
So Bernie's gonna talk to us quickly about the main break we had on Highway 76 and Olive Hill. Why are we even talking about main? We have them all the time. What makes this one special? Real quick, not to take all his thunder away from him.
Big road, lot of water.
Huh?
Big road, lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the main break actually happened off of Highway 76 but it impacted the roadway to where the roadway was having some failures, which meant we had to get Caltrans involved. So it turned into the repair itself was fairly normal by our standards, but now you've got Caltrans involved and let Bernie take it from there.
Robert did pretty good at the little recap of the whole thing. So we responded to main break at Olive Hill and 76. Play Ahmed. Pretty good amount of water going on. Over the edge, coming out of the edges of the catch basins. So, you know, we did what we could to shut it down. We looked thoroughly all the way around, just made sure nothing else was really damaged by it. Fortunately, it only affected 1 meter, but it was pretty high priority, being that it's one of the main feeds into Morrow. And with the water authority shut down, we need all the water we can get up there. So definitely pretty high priority. Right in the middle, right? But we're trying to confirm it. All right, so we documented, we took hundreds and hundreds of pictures. We can share those with you guys later if you'd like. As I mentioned earlier, we shut down the water main. That 1 meter that was affected, we were able to keep on water by jumping in from another meter. And that's that 7-Eleven over on that corner. So fortunately that we were able to keep them on water. So altogether, the repair took about 2 days. The first day consisted of primarily just excavating and shoring. Second day was the actual repair and mostly backfilling. We were fully out of there by Saturday, so that was just final cleanup and demobilizing.
How deep?
How deep? That one was 12 feet to the top of pipe, but the full size of the excavation was 14 feet.
Deep.
Yeah.
A lot of shoring.
That is, yeah. So right here is the second night of paving. Paving company brought out a big mill that just ripped through everything. We provided dump trucks to try to help keep the cost down. We had 2 of them circulating, running flows. They needed to bring base back to actually upgrade. That's why we kind of had them on standby both tonight, but in the meantime, we were able to help kind of clean up and areas organized.
So what we're looking at there is substrate, and is there a layer of concrete on top of that, or a layer of asphalt on top of that? What do we got here?
So right there, you would just have flashing road base. There was no concrete underneath that section of it. So we did a little bit of investigating on the first night over closer to the light pole where the 7-Eleven was at. And we dug a trench that was about 5 feet deep, and that's where Caltrans came in. They had their geotechs out there and a couple inspectors. So they probed around, they looked around the hole and determined that there was no voids, that the subgrade looked fine. It was just a little bit saturated, but it was within what they would consider acceptable. So we were able to, again, backfill that with base, compact it, and continue paving that first night. The second night, they didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, so we didn't have to excavate anything on that side. The third night, though, on the other turn pocket, there was some saturation. And we did have to dig out about 10 by 20 and replace that with class 2 road base.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the 76 is not a concrete roadway. Is that right? It is
Correct.
asphalt on top of compacted substrate. Is that right?
12 inches of asphalt.
It's what?
12 inches.
12 inches.
12 inches.
12-inch thick asphalt.
That's creepy.
The highway.
Never mind. Okay, keep going. Yeah.
So again, we were able to finish up that repair Thursday night. After that, there are 2 pending items on it, which is striping and loop repair. When the asphalt milling machine went through, it did damage 2 loops. So we are having those replaced on Monday, June 9th.
What's a loop?
So as you approach the traffic lights, I don't know if you ever noticed on the ground, there's sometimes
Oh,
like
the
socket.
sensors,
Yeah, so they're the sensors. They call them traffic loops.
Mhm.
So we did damage 2 of them by milling them out, and they couldn't be seen based on just all the layers of asphalt that were stacked on top of each other. And the machine found them. So like I said, we'll be replacing those. And then on Thursday night of this coming week, we have the striping. So they're going to lay down thermoplastic and just repaint the road in those areas. Yeah. But there's just a picture of beginning of the excavation. Right there, we have our staff and the geotechs probing around. Another quick video of the water that was running over it and shooting out of the sides.
What is the cost?
Yeah, so the paving estimate on the paving was just over $200,000. Because Caltrans want us to get out there right away, this turned into an emergency project, so we had to just get a traffic control company out there. Generally speaking, Peters is always the lowest, but now they've done the traffic loops and the striping, so we haven't gotten those costs yet. And that's something we'll report back to. We come back here and the board.
Yeah.
Once it's finalized.
So between the leak repair, paving, it's a $250,000 job.
Yeah, easy.
And what happened, I was out there the day it happened, and Robert kind of had a good assessment of it, because you could see after a couple of days the cars are going by and
I felt that.
doing this. Yeah, I did too. The water basically went under, between the layers of asphalt, and everything got lifted and then came back down. But then it doesn't lay back down flat. And so that's because the subgrades still look good. That was actually a benefit. If it would have wiped away the subgrade, you'd probably be talking about a much bigger job, big enough because it's 12-inch thick asphalt. But anyways, and we do feel Caltrans was pretty reasonable with the area. Sometimes you'll get that too, where Greg used to work at the city. He probably used to do this all the time, right? Just head back there to the next stoplight and do the.
Yeah. It was when we met,
but it was actually very, very reasonable area that they it was actually the area that did exhibit damage. So yeah.
I kind of, when we met them on site and we had a meeting with their engineers and their geotech people, I'm like, start the meeting off. I'm not paving up to Olive Hill and I'm not going back to Thoroughbred. I'm just letting everybody know right now that there was no water over there. Just get that out of the way right off the bat. But they were at a good crew. They were good to work with. Our Bernie's construction crew is a very capable crew to do a 16-inch line at 13, 14, 15 feet deep on the side of the road. Most water districts will contract that work out. That is way over capabilities for most places. For us, it was nothing of it wasn't a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what we do, right? So cost savings there that we didn't call a contractor to do that. And then we always, on these large paving jobs, if our trucks are available, we'll get them in the mix. Whatever we can do to help save money, we do as much as we can. But The traffic control was extensive, and that was Caltrans standards. So that traffic control actually started at GERD, right? And that's when they began laying signs, and then the cones were, I mean, you start seeing cones like it'd be a monster ride. It was kind of crazy. And then we did it at nighttime because the daytime work, they said if we want to do daytime work, we had to put K rails out there. So the cost of having K rails put in, and then because we're shifting lanes every night as we're paving, you're picking up K rails and moving them every night, and you have this tight window to do it at nighttime, essentially 7 o'clock to 5 a.m. and you got to try and get off the road. So yeah, that just forced us to the night work.
I think Rodney's got his hand up.
Yeah, what was the cause of the break? Is just that it was old, infrastructure old, or is there some other cause?
Yeah, it was just basically older pipeline in there. I don't recall the year that it was put in, but there was some corrosion on the bottom, and that's where it had failed.
And is that something the district has insurance for, or is it self-insuring?
Yeah, no, underground facilities can't be insured.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think so.
That's why we have construction crews.
Right.
That is the insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my world of risk assessment, was this when you look at the whole system, and it is aged in a lot of places, would this be a sort of high risk main?
This is not a pipeline that we've had a historical issue with. So this could be the beginning of issues.
Ah, got it. Yeah. So in other words, it's more to come.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking in terms of learning from each of these catastrophes, right? Is a revisit maybe of prioritization or from a capital improvement perspective.
Was this fresh pipe that had just been put down as part of the?
Oh, no, this pipe's been in the ground.
What kind of
30
pipe
years.
is it?
Cement coated steel. So it has cement on the inside with the layer of metal and then cement on
Right.
the outside.
Did we put some cathodic on it? What was-
Every repair we do, we drop cathodic protection on it.
Okay, all right, put the nodes in.
That's our new standard.
Okay. Okay, well,
That's just a update.
yep,
Oh, that's on
Check.
the agenda for next month.
get your checkbook ready there, Constantine. There's a bill coming. Anything else on this item? We'll go to item 15, state and federal grants update.
There we go.
Thank you very much for that report.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks for the work.
Sure. You can scroll through it. I want to thank Amanda for putting this nice presentation together. She's been involved in all the various grant applications and has accompanied me on a couple of visits to petition for funding. But wanted to give you an update on some of our grant, both the pursuits and status on grants that we've already received. The first being, we talked about this, it was late last year, Med put together a proposal. This was a grant that was coming through Cal OES for cybersecurity, so a host of cybersecurity upgrades. And we submitted a grant. It was kind of a breakfast menu. It was a menu of items that we were hopeful to accomplish over the next year or two, probably the next 2 years, and things that we were wanting to do anyways, right? These were things that we kind of had on in our plans to make sure that the district is safe from cyber attacks and things like that. But we submitted them all thinking we may get some or all of it, and we got all of it. So yeah, all 180,000 that we submitted, we got word last December. And so I know Ahmed and his team are moving forward on that. we're waiting on FEMA approval. It sounds like, and then as soon as that, we'll start expending funds. The good thing about this one, there is no cost share, so the 180,000 is the cost of the projects, and it's all funded through Cal OES. So again, things that would have been needed to be put into our operating budget that are now covered by a grant. So that was a really good one. We are working on the EV charging stations through program through SDG&E. I know Esther and Constantine over on the finance side and Robert have been working on this one. We do have an application in, and we're waiting to hear back. This is the one where they've been talking about that 18-month-ish time window on, because there's a lot of activity here, throughout, all the electrical purveyors service area, looking for electrical upgrades and that to put these charging stations in.
Who is the consultant we're working with?
Have we hired a consultant on
No.
this yet?
No, just directly with SDG&E has a group of folks that work with agencies like us to help us go through the process.
Okay, thanks.
But we're not paying a consultant or engineer.
So that's a little bit early in the process, although we've been working on it for 8 months or so. It's pretty slow moving with SDG&E right now. This was a $1.6 million grant that we got through the EPA for the wastewater division, basically targeted at our lift stations, so lift station upgrades. And so this is the three backup generator replacements that's in our both our CIP, but we're working through the process with EPA now. The money's already been earmarked, but you still have to go through an application process. So EPA has to approve it, and then and they're going to review your environmental and all those kind of different things. These are just replacements, so it should be fairly straightforward as far as environmental and that goes. But we're still in that process, and we do have Hope Consulting is helping us with the application process. They have an expert on their team.
Is this like an earmark?
It is.
And was it sponsored by a congressman from
ISA?
ISA? Okay,
Yeah.
ISA.
This came through Daryl Isa's office.
All right.
And these take a while to work their way through. So, but we're getting closer. And we're kind of holding off on design work until we get the EPA to say. And this one does have it's a 20% cost share, but good value for the district.
That's our match, local match, 20%.
Yeah. And a lot of times you can do that through staff time and things like that.
Right.
So again, things you're going to pay for anyways, you can use for your match. So that's a good one. Definitely needed on the wastewater side. This is a new one that we just submitted a notice of intent on. This is one we've been talking about for a while though. Unfortunately with the big disaster events comes a lot of funding through FEMA. They reserve a portion for future hazard mitigation through their hazard mitigation grant program. And so this was the notice of funding opportunity that came out in response to the LA fires. And so a lot of funding there. We submitted basically a $3.75 million, well, that's be the federal share for installation of 6 emergency backup generators. So basically at all our key pump station sites, this would cover those backup generators, two of the new pump station sites, and then 4 others. So this would pretty well cover our area with emergency backup power and automatic transfer when that occurs. Yeah. Which would be a huge upgrade. Again, this is the reliability march.
And we're applying for this at this point. Is that correct?
We filed, or we submitted what they asked for, a notice of intent. So kind of a notice of intent to file. And then once you file that, they basically give you the thumbs up. Yeah, your project is in line with, because you have to have this as part of your adopted local hazard mitigation plan. And so they kind of confirm, oh, yep, this is in line with your plan and you're eligible. It's a good project. Go ahead and submit the formal application, which obviously requires a little bit more work.
Well, that's pretty generous of them. I mean, we're a long way from the LA fire for them to be funding stuff here. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sometimes they do keep it county specific, but a lot of time, but these big ones like the Paradise, a lot of money came out of the Paradise Fire. So those same kind of things. Again, they've got, yeah.
Jake, since you were approved May 20th, when is anticipated time to hear approval?
Well, we have to actually now file the formal application,
Right.
which I think is due in August,
And then when are the awards going to be?
probably several months after that. So you're probably around the end of the year.
Okay.
We'll probably hear, we'll have to put the application together. End of the year, maybe first quarter next year. Usually takes them 3 to 6 months to actually formally go, yeah, these are all the projects we're gonna fund. So
And will it be by reader score or by who? Who's scoring this one?
well, it's through Cal OES, well, FEMA through Cal OES. So that's who will be doing it. We'll have to look at the actual notice of funding. There usually is a scoring process. So that's where we'll have to go through and really kind of hit those points.
Good.
That's, yeah.
Okay, good.
Do we already have designs for them, or is that design going to be part of the package? And so it's not design build or design procure?
Yeah, we would have to move forward with design. We don't have we don't have formal designs for any of these. I know especially the new pump stations, they were designed with a location for them. So there's actually a graded pad that sits right next to the pump station. So it's ready to go, but yeah, it would require some electrical and concrete pad and that kind of thing. Not a huge design effort, but there is some, yes. That'll still be required. So we'll have to fund that. That could be part of that. We do have a match on this one. So that would probably be a portion of what we match.
Thanks.
Yep. So these were the ones that were sent to, this is a potential earmark. And we pitched 3 projects, one being the heli hydrant at Gomez Tank, which probably would have come in handy last Thursday, Friday. And we got some support letters for this project too. We got kind of our local fire agencies and that submitted support letters on our behalf to that we gave to the congressman's office. But a heli hydrant, this also had a standby generator and some pipeline upgrades. So replacing some pipelines, new hydrants and things like that, all kind of based on, fire safety, making sure we got fire flow in certain areas, but obviously would help in our pipeline replacement program as well. So, those they seem to indicate the projects were good. They asked us to submit all 3 of them. We did so. And so we're kind of still waiting to hear.
These pipeline upgrades, that catches my attention very quickly. I love that. In general, what kind of segment lengths are we talking about here? 500 yards, half a mile, quarter mile, 2 miles? What are we talking about?
Dollar amount, I think we put in a $1.5 million request on the pipeline alone. And I think it was based on the pipeline work that we wanted to do out at Gopher.
Canyon.
Yeah. So, no, it was thousands of feet. I mean, it was thousands of feet, but maybe half a mile.
Half a mile or so?
Something.
Good. So we get some real meat there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good.
Otherwise, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? You have to go through
400 feet. I mean, what's
well, and even the process you have to go through and kind of the hoops you have to jump through because it's going to come through a federal agency. So you're talking about having to do NEPA. You're having to do those things. Again, with replacement projects, a lot of times you can push those through a little quicker than if you're building something new or something like that. But there's still a lot of time and effort that has to go into it. So to do it for a $200,000 or $300,000 pipeline replacement, it just doesn't make sense. It's either $1 million plus or
good.
Just put it in your CIP.
Good.
In these last ones, is my math correct that we are going for about 4.35 million?
On these 3 projects? No, it wasn't that much. It was a little over 3 million. It was a little over 3 million. Because the heli hydrant's not that.
It's about 3.75. It's a 5 million with a 20% cost share for us. So that came out to like 3.75.
Well, that's the generator projects, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
The ISA projects was a little bit lower. Yeah. See, he's got 300 to 1.5. The 1.5 was the pipeline project. The generator, I think, was 1, and the heli hydrant was what, another 300,000. So it's 2.8, about 2.8 million on these ones. Oh, what'd I do? There we go. And weed abatement, Chad could probably give you a better update than I can on this one, but this is a grant we got through Cal OES that we're actually in on. Like we're submitting for reimbursements as we're doing weed abatement. I can't even read those numbers because my eyes are bad, but
To date, grant reimburses $50,787.
okay.
And we're getting invoices now that has been awarded to SMS. We are getting invoices every month on this project, and they're coded if it's grant reimbursable or being charged to our CIP.
Excellent. And this is state?
Cal OES, yes.
Yep. Wellness grant. This is probably a Carlene one. She could jump in if she wants, but I know this is one we apply for every year. It's a small grant, but it helps with our health fair costs and things like that. So we always do it. I don't know, Carlene, if you have anything to add
Yeah,
on.
it's about 2,000 a year. Sometimes if they have too many agencies applying, they'll reduce the amount slightly. But we've done things in previous years like buying massage canes and things like that. This year we launched an online wellness program called Well Steps that allows employees to sync their activity trackers, if they have an Apple Watch or a Garmin or Fitbit, something like that, and challenge each other, things like drink more water, step challenges, things like that. So so the JPIA covered that grant for this year, and we're in the process of reapplying for next fiscal year.
Reminds me I have to update my steps.
Yeah.
It's been fun to see what everybody else is doing, and we kind of share. We have some rewards that are sort of fitness related rewards that employees can earn based on their activity level. It's all covered by the grant. And some of the rewards are purchased with our American Express points.
Yeah. I did 20 miles over the weekend at a baseball tournament, so I think I'm gonna submit those. I might be a contender that no.
Jake.
I don't think you're going to beat Luke's Grand Canyon 33 miles.
Oh, there you go. Luke's got.
Yeah.
But the committee members, please get a copy of this PowerPoint,
Sure. Yeah.
because the numbers are pretty small there.
Yeah. And that's all we have right now.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for that update. It's I do a little grant writing myself for a charity I'm involved with, and the grants process can be tedious, frustrating.
Yeah.
Especially when they decide to change directions in the middle of the road. It's a bit of a problem. So congratulations to Amanda and the crew for pushing through and getting these grants. Thank you. That's a little less burden on the ratepayer and some added benefits to our district. So it's a good thing. Keep it up. Item 16, as needed engineering services expenditure summary. I think I saw one little yellow on there. Huh?
There is one, and two more came in after the agenda packet was due. So we have the one that you're talking about. And then the two more that came in were assignment letters. So we have a total of 3 for the month of May. We have bird nesting services by Recon Environmental. That's for the weed abatement that we are talking about, weed abatement and brush clearing on the Pankey easement. And then we did survey services with KDM Meridian. This was at the Gopher Pump Station project. And then construction management and inspection services by Valley CM, which is district-wide.
Okay.
Total of 3.
Right. To wit, if I may, it appears to me that Anderson and Brabant are not doing anything for us, right?
The real estate services?
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had that need for quite a while.
Right. What do you think about kicking that can down the road and reallocating the money? Just a thought. You don't have to answer now. Just a thought.
I won't answer.
All right. And I'm also looking at can't tell if it's GIS surveyors or GSI, whatever it is, but it looks like, except for some historical staking of the Bonsall Reservoir, they're not doing any work for us either. And they don't seem active. And once again, if they're not being active, why would we keep them? And then finally, page 3, I know we just did something with Artura, but they've got on-call CM
They do.
services, $25,000, not a penny has been tapped on that. And so I put those out there as food for thought, that we have still some more vendors that are not coming to the party. And I say, unless you got some really strong reason, let's kick them to the curb and reallocate the dough.
Well, so it kind of goes back to the action item about only receiving one bid.
Yep.
While they're not getting the assignment letters, we do use them as a kind of a checks and balances to ensure that they are, so who we are awarding to, Flint, it's okay, this is within range. So they're either going to be more on the expensive side or not able to do the service within our time frame specified. But they are, all the partners on this are being responsive. With the exception of real estate, we haven't had anything in a while for real
I don't
estate.
think I understand your logic. Maybe I'm just having an old man moment, but
I have 3 geotech firms.
yeah,
And I issue all 3 the same assignment letter.
right.
Your firm might say, well, I can't do it within that time. Julie's firm is expensive, but Greg Irvine's is, I can do it in that time and I'm the cheapest, but we know he's the cheapest because I have 2 to compare to.
It's a good practice.
So instead of if
okay.
I just have one, I'm just assuming it's a good
Yeah, if
price.
you don't have a pool
I don't have both.
to
I have no
ask.
data.
you reduce your,
So we're gonna keep a bunch of budget authority tied up and a contract active just so we can compare. Okay, all right. Got it. Any other comments on as needed services? Then we'll move on to suggested agenda items for the next meeting. Do we have any?
logistical question on the next meeting. It is week of holiday. Are we intending to have this meeting during that week?
Oh, because of July 4th?
Therese? Did we,
We
What-
have
Well,
one.
July
specific
4th is
thing.
on a Friday and we meet on a Tuesday. So what's the issue here?
Some people take vacation more than one day. Some people,
I think we'll run that risk.
Every day.
If there's stuff to be put on an agenda.
I just met with the engineering team earlier. I haven't met with operations or IT yet, but the July was looking very light if we even have anything right now.
Okay, so maybe the
don't
question is off.
we, won't the master plan?
I want to talk to you about that after this meeting.
Okay.
I'm
Uh-oh,
not asking for a decision today. I'm just putting it out there that we
Okay.
need to consider that
right.
July 8th.
with time enough for
Right.
people to be able to make plans or not make
Right.
plans.
There is a high likelihood that many will be traveling during that time.
You think?
Or relaxing
I don't think so.
with family.
Okay. Let's see what goes on with what's of it. Rather than have the discussion now only to find out there's nothing to talk about, let's just wait and see. Okay. All right, so that's that. And adjournment. Anybody objecting to adjourning? Let's,
I just would like to have.
she's objecting to adjourning. You see there?
them get copy of the PowerPoint. Because I think that's very exciting for us to keep our lens on. It's very great news and work.
Yep.
I will forward right after this meeting and I'll also post it on the internet on our website.
Excellent. Yes, I think it's your own. one.
Adjournment would be wonderful. Okay, so we're gonna call it quits. QED, let's quit and eat dinner. Do our thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yes, it is.
I'm turning my mic off. I meant to raise this during.